Hi, I'm Harry Wingfield from the UCF IRB staff. This learning module will cover the three levels of review for human subjects research, and those are exempt review, expedited review, and full board review. Here is an overview of the most common types of human subjects research studies that are eligible for exempt determination. The education exemption is for evaluation of normal educational practices. That's category 1. Normal educational practices refers to instructional techniques already in use or to classroom management research. Conducting the research in an educational setting does not automatically qualify it for this exemption category. Most studies that include surveys, interviews, cognitive and aptitude tests, and observations can be reviewed under exempt category 2. If there is a psychological risk, though, it cannot be reviewed as exempt. Brief, benign behavioral interventions can be reviewed under exempt category 3. Brief is defined as less than 3 hours in one day only. Benign means posing no risk of harm. Studies that involve wearable devices like wrist monitors or headsets to collect data or to create an immersive environment are not considered benign because of the slight risk. So, research that collects data from a wearable device cannot be exempt. Behavioral intervention includes activities like drawing a picture with your non-dominant hand, playing a video game, or participating in an activity. UCF IRB does not consider taking a survey or taking part in an interview to be a brief benign behavioral intervention. These will go under category 2 for surveys and interviews. Some research involving vulnerable populations can be exempt, but most will need to be reviewed as expedited or full board. Exempt category 4 is for secondary review of data if you have access to identifiers but do not record them. For these, there is a shorter form, which we will discuss later. If you do not have access to identifiers at all, the study can be reviewed as not human subjects research. But if you are recording identifiers, the study must be reviewed as expedited review or full board review, depending on the risk level. There is an annotated exempt submission form, HRP 255, under the General tab in the Forms library that will help you understand what the form is asking for. I'll discuss more about the forms you will use later in these courses. Here is an overview of the types of research that fall under expedited review. Expedited review must be minimal risk. This includes minimal risk of collection of specimens, non-invasive procedures, and surveys and interviews that don't meet the exempt criteria. There is an annotated version of the expedited protocol template, HRP 503, that provides information on what information needs to go into each section and subsection of the form. I strongly recommend that you access this document by finding it under the General tab in the Huron IRB library. The next slides go into a deeper dive into the categories of research that can be reviewed by expedited process. Your IRB reviewer will assign these categories. When the IRB gets a submission that is sent to us as expedited review, we want to make sure it fits into at least one expedited category and does not fall outside the minimal risk parameters of other expedited categories. The categories for expedited not only tell us what is allowed, but also what is not allowed. Category 1 which is rarely used, is for studies testing approved drugs and devices if the drug or device itself does not cause more than minimal risk. If the approved drug is not being tested for a new approved indication, it may be considered not more than minimal risk. If a medical device is approved by the FDA, it must be used per labeling or per the FDA marketing approval if the device is the focus of the research. If the device is not the focus of the research, but instead is being used for evaluation purposes only, this is not considered more than minimal risk. This is why the protocol template asks you to provide the name and purpose of every device used in the study and provide the manufacturer name and the approval status. Category 2 for blood draws provides limits for the volume of blood that can be drawn in a set period of time and the number of times blood can be drawn within 1 week. Even a finger stick, like those used in blood sugar testing, is considered a blood draw. More than 2 blood draws in a week's time is considered more than minimal risk and must be reviewed by the convened board. Category 3 is for collecting other biological samples using non-invasive means. This includes swabbing for a saliva sample, taking hair clippings for analysis, taking a simple urine or stool sample, and using leftover tissue from a medical procedure done for standard care. Category 4 is for collecting of data using non-invasive procedures. This includes procedures like measuring weight, measuring height, measuring BMI, etc., if these data are being used for research. An unapproved device can be used for measurements under expedited review, provided the research is not focused on the device or assay. If your primary study objective is to test the safety and efficacy of an unapproved device like a new device, this could require full board review. Category 5 is for review of information or specimens that were originally collected for other purposes if identifiers are being recorded. For some studies, you may want to look at your subject's medical records or other records. In most cases, if you are seeing these subjects in person, you should include the request to use this information by obtaining the subject's signature either in an informed consent form or in a HIPAA authorization form. If you are not seeing these subjects in person but are only doing a medical records review, you can request a waiver of HIPAA authorization from the UCF IRB. For non-medical records, HIPAA does not apply, but in most cases, you will still need permission from the data source if you don't have assigned consent. For instance, for any school or classroom records, if you don't have assigned consent, the registrar for that school or department must authorize your use of the data for research. This includes UCF classroom records. Category 6 applies if you are doing any kind of recording during your data collection. This includes recordings made by a Fitbit or similar device, as well as video and/or audio recording. Be sure that your protocol procedures section includes mention of any recordings you plan to do, even if it's being done by a monitoring device. Category 7 for behavioral research or behavioral research methods will be mentioned in your approval process if you are conducting surveys and questionnaires for your research. If your study was initially reviewed by the full board and the board determined that future research could be reviewed by expedited process, that falls under Category 8 or Category 9. Any study that does not fit under not human subjects research Exempt review or expedited review will need to go to the convened board or full board. Sometimes the IRB staff sends a study to the convened board so that the board can make the final determination on the risk level. Here's a question. Which review level and category would apply for research which includes measuring weight before and after daily exercise over a 2-week period? Choice 1, Expedited Category 5, Secondary Review of Data. Choice 2, Exempt Category 3, Brief Benign Behavioral Intervention. Choice 3, Not Human Subjects Research, Not Generalizable. Choice 4 is Expedited Category 4, Non-Invasive Procedure. The correct answer is 4, Expedited Category 4, Non-Invasive Procedures. The study is prospective, so it is not secondary review. The period of time is more than 1 day, so it's not exempt. The results could be generalizable, so it is human subjects research.